Adelaide.
You're listening to Sonia Feldhoff on ABC Radio Adelaide.
Well, last weekend I was with people, and just in the course of one dinner, two stories about the legendary status of the Little River Band came up as part of that discussion. And you may well have your own. There is no doubt that at the heart of this band is the name, the talent, the man, Graeham Gobles. And it was with great pleasure that we say hello to him now. Hello, Graeham.
Hi, Sonia. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you for joining us. Graeham, when we talk about legends, there's no doubt that Little River Band had and continues to hold such legendary status in the music industry. At the time, could you feel that was what was happening, or is it only in retrospect?
Well, I mean, legendary status, I think, requires time to get to, and I guess it's in the eyes of the listeners or the ears of the listeners. But no, at the time we were honestly too tired, too busy, like we were just working constantly. For the 10 years I was touring with the band, it's pretty much either recording, touring, travelling, writing 7 days a week. And we get Christmas Day off basically, and spending months and months endlessly on the road promoting the band. And as the band was breaking, particularly in America, but also in a lot of other places as well, we just had to keep going. The door opened and we just had to go through it and keep going.
Yeah, well, when the opportunities arise, no doubt about it. It seems now with this online museum dedicated to the Little River Band that we're starting to see the breadth and scope in a real way of what you managed to achieve.
Yes, well, that's come out of a fantastic Adelaide guy called Victor Marshall, who spent a couple of years putting this really, which is a dedication to the work of I guess it's Beeb, Glenn and I, but also just Little River Band. It's not just the LRB catalogue, but it's also our individual catalogues, because since leaving the band I've done many solo projects, most of which are don't have any sort of focus. And Victor has really assisted me in getting it all into the digital domain. And so now even demos and all sorts of things that the public have never heard before, we've put them all up digitally so as it can be heard around the world. And also we can see lots of demographics with the search engines and things. We can see who's listening, what the age groups are, and this is what record companies and music people are doing these days to see where their music is being listened to.
And what are you finding? Are you finding that the scope of both the solo music and the band's music is still appealing to great all ages, or is it sort of just that baby boomer generation?
No, it's all ages, and there's quite a surprising younger people that are getting into it as well. I mean, the wonderful statistic that we were told this week was that Reminiscing's just gone through 32 million streams. I mean, which is pretty insane when you think about, and it's all over the world. It's not just here. And of course, my solo releases are going to be connected to that, so as people will be able to link in and see when they go onto LRB site, they can come across to my solo site and see all of the work that I've done over the last 20 years of lots of different things.
Is it right that you've actually been working with your son in recent times?
Two sons. I've got 4 children, but my 2 sons are both fantastic musicians, and I work with them all the time. You know, they one is a film composer and does all the orchestral work and bass player, and my other son is a guitarist, but we've also been doing lots of other creative things together. That's what we do. Yes.
Yeah. The music world has changed so much, and the way we listen to music has changed so much. You're obviously being able to access music that you did early on in a very different way now through this online site. How's it been revisiting some of those tunes from a long time ago for you, even pre-LRB?
Well, it's been very interesting because it's such like there's a lot of stuff that's gone up that I hadn't listened to for a long time, and to be quite honest, I'm pleasantly surprised. I mean, I'm even getting emails from ex-band members who hadn't heard stuff, and even things that I did in late 1960s, you can see the beginnings of LRB, because it's sort of like Little River Band was evolved out of my own songwriting of Adelaide bands of Silence, Travis Wellington, Hedge, Alison Gross, then Mississippi, and then that became Little River Band. But ultimately, I'm a songwriter and a singer and a producer and all sorts of things. So I've just, from the age of late teens, formed bands around my songwriting and my songs, and that arrived in 1975 with Little River Band, but it was a gradual 10-year journey up to that point, and then it sort of exploded around the world. But ultimately, it started when I was 13. Started to write songs in my bedroom in Adelaide, and that was my whole thing. I'm really essentially a songwriter first, and I became involved in bands to have my songs performed, and that's what happened.
I'm talking with Graeham Gobles from the Little River Band, and of course from a stellar history of solo career, but with many bands, and he's mentioned just a few right there and then. In fact, I think answering a text that we've just had from Batbrat, Graeham, in which he asks, can you ask him if before Little River Band did he play in the acoustic band Alison Gross? If he did, I loved Kings of the World, says Batbrat.
Yeah, well, I wrote Kings of the World, and it became Record of the Year in 1972. I sang that song as well, and that was sort of the first, if you like, national hit that I had. That got me started, and that unfortunately made me leave Adelaide, because I love Adelaide more than any town in the world. But in 1972, Kings of the World became a hit. I left Adelaide, came to Melbourne, and then started a professional career. I used to work for the Public Buildings Department in Adelaide for 10 years, and I remember I was 9.5 years working for the Public Buildings Department, and then Kings of the World came out, and it was quite a hit on radio and everything. And I told everybody I was going to leave and become a professional musician, and so I took long service leave, actually, rather than just resign. And my boss said, "Oh, you'll be back." Well, I haven't actually been back yet. So.
You showed him. Graeham, tell us about back in 1980. I mean, you mentioned Beeb Birtles, obviously another band member, but you and Beeb did an album together.
Yes, it was. Well, I mean, I have to be honest. I was writing a lot of songs in that period, and with Little River Band, with the competition to get songs on a record. I might put 30 to 40 songs forward for an LRB release, and at best I might get 3.5 songs, maybe 4 at the most. And so there's all these songs left over, and Beeb and I really loved our voices together, always have loved that, and we felt that we could almost do a Hall & Oates on the side, because we had so many songs, and we were very keen on trying to develop a duo career, and then we did this wonderful record. And of course, one of the biggest things we did was "I'm Coming Home," which was a massive hit in Australia, and it equaled any LRB release. And it was disappointing that the record company, particularly in America, really buried it, because they felt that if Steve and I had a big success as a duo, that we possibly might have left Little River Band and followed that route.
Yeah, right.
Which might have happened, I might say.
Yeah.
You just have to follow it where it goes. So, but it was a wonderful record, and it remains a wonderful record, and we get many, many emails and things about "I'm Coming Home," which seems to be a favourite of lots of people.
Look, if you want to see and hear more of not only Little River Band's work, but all of the work of Graeham and those, there is this website called shorrockbertlesgoble.com. It's the largest online museum dedicated to an Australian band, or possibly any band. Mick has rung asking if the name the Little River Band was named after the Torrens, which is a little river.
Unfortunately not. It was named after the Little River town just out on the way from Melbourne to Geelong.
Yes.
That was Glenn Shorrock's find, if you like.
And I just mentioned that website. Ben asks, will there be any digital uploads of Mississippi music, the band you started out with?
Yes, it's all there, and not only is the original Mississippi album finally uploaded after about 30 years, but there's another album of rarities and singles that are all uploaded as well, and it's just on Mississippi Spotify. And there is actually a Mississippi dedicated website too. I don't know the address of it, but that's easily found, and that gives lots of old pictures of Mississippi and all sorts of things.
Well,
But all the Mississippi demos and previously unreleased stuff is now all on Spotify.
Graeham Bazza reminisces himself. He says, I served Graham petrol in Balaclava 40 years ago and got his autograph. He still remembers it.
Well,
Nick,
tell him I'm sorry that I don't quite remember. Thank you very much.
and Nick from Harndorf says, please thank Graham for his work. Kings of the World is still one of my favourite songs. Godspeed.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Graham, and thank you. It was wonderful to speak with you.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you.
Graeham Gobles, of course, incredible musician. You've heard the names of the bands we've been talking about. Most significantly, I guess most of us remember Little River Band, but Mississippi and many of the others as well. It was great to speak with him. You're listening to ABC Radio Adelaide, South Australia and Broken Hill. Well, several weeks ago,